It's time for CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, YouTube, and TuneIn. The easiest thing to do is tell Alexa or Siri to play CBJ in 30. Here's your host, Bob McElligott.
You know, it is tough to feel like it's Christmas time when you're losing, and that's unfortunately where the Blue Jackets are right now. They have dropped 4 straight games as they get set for tonight's game in Washington against the Capitals. Welcome to CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. I am Bob McElligott, and I have the answers to all of your questions coming up in just a few minutes. And you know the answers are 100% right. There's no doubt about that. You know that they are well thought out and that I am going to give you the attention that you duly deserve. Let there be no mistake about any of that. But first, I've got to tell you about my good friends over at Telhio Credit Union. You know, at this time of the year, you start to think about a lot of things, right? You get to Christmas, New Year's. Do I have enough money? Am I saving enough money? What should I do with my money? Those are all questions that are legitimate. They're very legitimate questions, and maybe you don't know what the answer is for you. Well, I can tell you where you can find some people that will help. The people at Telhio Credit Union. You can do this one of 2 different ways. Now, first of all, you can stop by one of their local offices and you can talk with somebody about what it is you're looking for, what you're hoping to accomplish, all of those things. You can do that. Or if you don't have time to do that right at this moment, you can go online to telhio.org. As you surf that website, you will find the answers to many of the questions that you have. And in the unlikely event that you don't find all of the answers, I can tell you how you can get the answer. On the right-hand side of the screen, there is a live chat option. You click on that, somebody will get to you, and they will have an answer to your question. They will hopefully have a solution to your problem. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in central and southwestern Ohio, and they are federally insured by NCUA. So the Blue Jackets have dropped 4 straight. They're hoping to snap out of that here tonight against the Washington Capitals. So that means that the mood is a bit subdued here today, and I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. Right? You've said that before, haven't you? You've heard it before. If you haven't said it before, I know you've heard it before. So let's just get to it. Let's dive right in. Again, it's not going to be the most pleasant thing. I'm not going to lie to you about that. It's going to be some tough sledding today. So let's just get right into it. And we'll start with Dan, who has the first question. And Dan says, do we have any sellable assets to assist in our rebuild? And if so, who? Well, Dan goes right into the word rebuild. Now, Is this a rebuild for the Blue Jackets? All summer, it was said it is not a rebuild. It was said that there were points that were going to be missing, namely the point-per-game production that Artemi Panarin brought the last 2 years. But there were other candidates that were able to up their game a little bit. You bring in Gus Nyquist from San Jose, and he routinely gets about 60 points on the year. So you look at it and you say, okay, here's the thing. So you've got 82 points you're missing, or 82, 83, whatever. And now I'll give you 60. Where are you going to get the other 23? Well, that's not a problem. Let's just have a couple of guys. Let's say we have 4 guys score basically an extra 5 points. Can we do that? Yeah, I think we can do that. All right, let's do that. And if we can't do 4 guys getting 5 points, can we do 5 guys getting 4 points? Yeah, I think we can do that. We can do that. But the problem is, in all of those calculations that we had during the summer, and I was the first one to tell you that I thought that was possible. Well, it is still possible, but it is becoming ever more the challenge every single day with this team. Because when I was counting those points, I was figuring that the other guys are going to stay close to the level of performance that they were last year. But that is not the case. There are guys that are underperforming. They are mainly the older guys, the core guys. They are underperforming, and the Blue Jackets are suffering because of it. And so when you talk about the other stuff, when you talk about sellable assets and doing a rebuild, I mean, is that really what we want to talk about right now? Is that really where this team is right now? And look, I'm not stupid. I think they could be there sooner than later. But are you there right now? And what kind of sellable assets? Oh, you're asking me what sellable assets. Yeah, you've got sellable assets, of course. Ryan Murray is one of those. But here's the thing with Ryan Murray, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's easy to say, let's trade Ryan Murray. We have a gluttony of defensemen, and guys have got to go. Well, right now you don't have a ton of extra defensemen. You've got one, basically. You don't have a bunch of extra defensemen. So if you want to consider Murray a sellable, tradable guy, I guess you can, although when he is healthy and he is playing, I think you're hard-pressed to find somebody better than him if you're making a deal. Let's move on. Josh Anderson, he's in a contract year. He's in a restricted contract situation. Would it behoove you, if you're the Blue Jackets, to not be the team that's on the hook for whatever big salary he's going to get? Or should you kind of hold him off another year? Or what do you do in that situation? That's a great question. And I'm not advocating that Josh Anderson has to be the guy to go. I'm just answering the question about, the sellable assets. I mean, he would be one. You should be able to get a king's ransom for that guy. Sonny Milano is another guy. If you were able to move him, you should get a big return for him. Boone Jenner would fall into that category for me. There are several guys. Nick Foligno is a guy that maybe you're frustrated with at times, but I'll tell you, for a playoff team, when you get to the trade deadline, a playoff team will be knocking your door down to try to get a player with that kind of intensity and heart and all those things. So, that's just that's a long answer to a very short question, but I just feel I got to point all that stuff out because it's easy to say, do we have tradable assets? Yes, of course, but do you really want to trade them? And somebody will come to me and say, well, Alexander Wenberg, you definitely want to trade him. Okay, that's a totally different scenario. Maybe you do want to trade him, maybe, and you can't find anybody that wants to take his contract. Now, that is legit as well. So don't forget, when you ask me questions about this trading stuff, there are two sides to every story. Hockey Cat says, with the Blue Jackets facing former players recently, Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky, how does the team react to facing their former friends, and does this give them a bit of an advantage after practicing against Bob for years or being on the line with Bread for 2 seasons? Well, I mean, look, those games are both in the books now, and they're both losses. So the part of the question is, how does the team react to facing their former friends? They don't react very well. They lost both the games. And what really added insult to injury for me is that Panarin got the game-winning goal on Thursday. And Bobrovsky wasn't around for, he was there. He was doing what he can do, but he wasn't getting peppered and tested and all that stuff like you would really like to see the Blue Jackets doing to an opposing goaltender. So, he played solid, but all in all, I don't think it was that tough of a night for him when it was all said and done. The Blue Jackets miss a golden opportunity not only to win these games, but to make a statement in the process. But they don't do it, and in each of the 2 games, they lose, and now you get a question saying, do they get an advantage? No, they don't. Apparently they don't. They should, but they don't. But again, that comes back to finding a way to finish plays. It's amazing how you can work so hard to get the puck, to control the puck, to skate the puck, to pressure with the puck, and then take one bad shot, and it's out of the zone and going the other way. It's amazing. The Blue Jackets have some beaten up sticks right now, from the pressure that has been put on in the last couple of games. And when I say beaten up sticks, what I'm saying is that whether it's the Florida Panthers or the New York Rangers or the Arizona Coyotes, they're getting in there and they're getting stick on stick. They're finding ways to take away passes or taking away shots from the Blue Jackets. They're being outworked in that sense in these last couple of games. And that's why they've lost 4 in a row, quite frankly. That and the fact they're not finishing on their chances. Plenty of chances, just not finishing on those chances. Justin Needham says, is it going to take a trade to wake this room up? Maybe, Justin. Maybe it is. But again, to go back to, what kind of I was talking about here a few minutes ago, or moments, or whatever you want to say. It's easy to say, well, do we need to make a trade? Yeah, but you can't make a trade just for the sake of making a trade. If you're going to make a trade, it has to have some kind of benefit. It has to be, I think, a good hockey trade right now if you really want to jumpstart things and make sure that you are in the conversation. So just to make a trade is not going to do it. You've got to make the right trade. And that is going to be the key. If they do something, they've got to do the right thing all amongst the team, quite honestly. So we shall see. Next question comes from Lauren, who says, still not freaking out yet, but on the latest Inside Edge, you and Jody Shelley spoke about the importance of playing within a system and letting the goals come instead of focusing on the lack of scoring. Can we turn this ship around, by simply playing within Torts' systems like we did against Tampa? The short answer to that, Lauren, is yes, I think they can. The long answer is it is a very hard system to play. And it is extremely hard to play that system for 82 games. And I think that's where the Blue Jackets are left right now. Just because with the lack of talent on certain nights, I think that they are, they're in a spot, they're waiting for something, they're hoping for something. But, again, it's where do you find somebody that matches up? Who are you really willing to give up? All of those things. But the system that they play is really tough to play day in and day out. And you get that defense on the other side going back, behind the net and trying to skate it out. And you've got to have immediate forechecking pressure. It has got to be to a T when it comes to the details. And the Blue Jackets do struggle in that way, quite frankly. So, it can be done. It's not being done on a consistent basis right now. But, yeah, I mean, that's the way they have to play. They've got to play above the puck. They've got to minimize the odd man rushes on the goalie. They've got to minimize the shots, actually, on the goalie. They just need to be a little bit more aware of what is going on around them right now. Mike the Fireman says, how can the team work on increasing the chances of beating the goalie? Most shot attempts appear rushed, and the goaltender is watching them all the way in. A confused goalie is a beaten goalie. Well, you're right about that, Mike. A confused goalie is a beaten goalie. I don't care if you're playing, bantam, pee-wee, high school, NHL. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. That's a very good point. A confused goalie is a beaten goalie. But how do you confuse that goalie? Well, you've got to do a number of things. You've got to shoot the puck on net. You've got to crash the net. But, Mike, you do make another good point here, and that is you have to be patient. Because that delaying of a fraction of a second can be so important in this game. So don't get over anxious. It's kind of a catch-22. You're not scoring, so everybody's going to try even harder to score. But the fact of the matter is, you need to slow it down a little bit in your approach. And you need to figure out what works. And you can only do that by slowing it down. What works in certain situations might not work in other situations. So you got to figure it out. But there are guys that are coming up the ice so fast and making plays and shooting pucks so fast. It's like, you know what? If you could just slow that down just a tad, and just give yourself a little bit more time, I think you're going to find the openings to be much more prevalent than they are now. The next question on today's show comes from Cameron Maynard, who says, is finally winning a playoff series last year worth immediately being terrible again this year? Just asking an honest question. Looks like the Blue Jackets are heading back into the basement for a while. Just a bad team from top to bottom. All right, Cameron, look, I understand your frustration, but I am going to pick apart parts of this for you, okay? First of all, I don't think that they're heading back to the basement. And even if you came to me right now and said, listen, you can see what's going on here, okay? You've been to the playoffs 3 years in a row, and that's great, and I know you want to get back, but I really think you got to miss this year. And I really think that there's a draft pick that can help you. And I really think with a little bit more development, these guys, many of them will be better next year than they are this year. So if you came to me right now and said, I need you to actually miss the playoffs this year, and in exchange you're going to get a long run, longer than the one you're currently on, you're going to get. I would have to think long and hard about that, quite frankly. I really would, because I would be tempted to say, yeah, at all costs, I guess. But I would have to take time and think about that and see if that's the direction I wanted to go. Because I just, look, people are saying a total rebuild and you're going back to the basement, and I don't believe that. And I don't think it's that I don't want to believe that. I think I just really don't believe that. I think this team has a lot more character than that. I think that they are going to find themselves not getting into that kind of a pickle. Nelson Murdoch in Page says, who is the odd man out when Marcus Nudavara and Zach Werenski come back to the lineup? A trade would be great to pick up an asset for next year. Harrington extension is looking iffy right now. Listen, and there's another thing here I have in this list. I know there is about Scott Harrington. Let me just tell you about Scott Harrington. He might be sitting out again, but he is a guy that constantly gets attention from John Tortorella. He can skate. He does skate. He doesn't skate as I don't think he does it as consistently as he needs to. I think he can help out even more with the better skating effort. And it's good right now, but I think it has to go to great, quite frankly. So the Blue Jackets also need to step it up in that department as well. But, Scott Harrington, you can talk about his contract situation, and you can say it looks bad. And I'm going to skip up to another one here that I know is on this list. Lenaford says, Harrington needs to go to Cleveland or another team, LOL. Listen, Scott Harrington is a true pro. That's what I'm trying to say. He is a true pro. He understands his role. He probably doesn't like his role because he is not playing on an everyday basis. But that doesn't mean he's going to sit around and whine and cry and, be complaining to everybody under the sun about his lack of production, lack of role, blah, 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 all that stuff. But this is a guy that can most definitely play, and even going beyond that, he is just a good glue type of a guy to have around to keep people together and to keep people on the same page. So it's very easy to say when it comes to Scott Harrington that he's a guy that's got to be moved or he's a guy that's not worth having around. He has a lot more value than you may think that he has. I really, really do believe that. All right, let's go to the next one. Jason Messick says there's a little bit too much bashing and cliff jumping amongst the Blue Jackets fan base. Let's go with a question that we can all get behind. What is your favorite and least favorite holiday movie and why? Well, my favorite one is very easy for you, Jason. It's Christmas Vacation. I've always liked it. It came out right in my wheelhouse, if you will. I've enjoyed it for many, many years. I enjoy the humor in it, the jokes in it. I don't think they ever get old. And that's my favorite, hands down. That's very easy. I can pick that one out for you in a heartbeat, as I just did. When it comes to least favorite, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it that much. I mean, there are so many different movies that have a Christmas tie type of a thing to them. Always goes back to the old original Die Hard. Is that a Christmas movie or isn't it? Because it takes place during the Christmas season at an office party and all that stuff. But there's nothing that I can think of that jumps out as far as a least favorite as there is something that jumps out as quickly as a most favorite. So I will leave you with that. Okay? Next one has to do with Coach Sean saying, Coach Sean 77 says, could they trade for Taylor Hall, and what would he be worth in a trade? Well, again, maybe you can. It's going to cost you picks, including your first-round pick this year. It's going to cost you existing players. But again, when it comes to that guy in particular, and I talked about this last week at this time, I do believe, when it comes to that guy in particular, you have to make sure that he is going to sign an extension with you as well. You can't go out and make a deal and lose picks and lose young players, prospects, and then all of a sudden have the guy come to play for the rest of the year and then walk whenever the season ends for the Blue Jackets. You just can't do it. They won't do it. It's not worth that. But in theory, could they do it? Could they put together some kind of a package? I think they could. Is it worth putting together for that guy in particular? I don't know. I know he's been an MVP. I know he is a former first overall pick and all that stuff. So maybe, but I just don't know if you're going to be able to get the answer to the question as to whether or not this is a place that you want to stay when you're talking about that guy. And I think it has definitely got to be a place that whoever you go get in a trade, it has to be a place where they want to come play, because you just don't want guys walking out the door. You want to get the guys that it takes to win, and you want to win with them, and you want them to want to be around because they want to win again. They have that desire. They have that thirst for winning. That's what you're trying to do. So, again, I don't know if Taylor Hall is the guy that you need, but to answer the question, again, could they pull off a trade? I think they have assets to be able to do that. I just don't think that that is something that's going to happen, quite frankly, hands down. So the Blue Jackets are back in action tonight. They're trying to avoid a 5-game losing streak, but they're taking on a very tough team in the Washington Capitals here this evening. You know, Washington, again, that's one of those teams that is it's every year. Every year it's the same old for the Washington Capitals. They win games. They did. It doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter what kind of a system they play, all that jazz. They do just find a way to go out and win games, and they have been very good at it. So it's going to be a tough one tonight for the Blue Jackets, but tough doesn't mean impossible by any means. So they just need to come out and find a way to get a win. I knew that there was something else that I wanted to go over. Jody says, last week my question to you was, who would you love to interview given the chance? And last week when that was sent, I didn't get to it, and I said that the ones I didn't get to I would get to in the future. So this is the future. Who would I love to interview given the chance? See, here's the thing, Jody, and I got to think about this. It really makes me think because I enjoy doing interviews once I start to do them. I don't necessarily look forward to doing them. And I don't know if that makes sense to you. They can be, sometimes if you find a subject or somebody you want to interview and there's that anxiety that it's not going to come out the way that you wanted it to. And I mean, for me, then once you start having the conversation and it starts going in the direction that you want it to, then it's a lot of fun, and then you enjoy it, and then you're happy to tell everybody about it. But what I'm trying to say in long form here is that this is a tough question for me because I haven't actually sat down and thought about a specific person or a couple of different people that I would like to, do an interview with, have a conversation with is what I like to say about it. In fact, the town that we're in today, Washington, D.C., there are a lot of people that I would like to sit down and interview here because I would find it fascinating, not about sports, but just about, different things in life and government. I always enjoyed American history. I always enjoyed American government when I was in school. So this would be a place where there are a number of different people that I would like to interview. You may frown upon this, but I would love to go right to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and interview the president and just have a conversation about what that job is day in and day out. Because, you know what? No matter who the president is, it's a challenging job, and it doesn't change, and there are different aspects of it, and maybe one person would do something a different or in a different way than another person would approach it based on their politics and their look at it and all those things. But I think that would be a very interesting interview to have, just to talk about it and try to get a grasp on exactly what the whole job is, because you and I don't know the job. We don't know the job. Only the people that have had that job know what that job is all about, and it would be interesting to talk about the job itself and what it entails, and try to get some of that information that we just don't know about, all the, the stress and the worry and the different repercussions of every decision that you make. That would be fascinating to me to talk about that. So I hope that answers your question. It should. I think I gave you an answer to your question, but I do appreciate the question. Blue Jackets and Capitals tonight, 7 o'clock, right here in the nation's capital. Pregame coverage will start at 6:30 tonight on the Blue Jackets radio network. That includes our flagship station, 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. You can also get the game at bluejackets.com. You can get it on the Blue Jackets app, and you can listen to our broadcast tonight on Sirius XM Radio Channel 928 is where you will find my broadcast tonight. So I hope that you will join me this evening for the Blue Jackets and the Washington Capitals. The Blue Jackets then will return home very briefly and then head back out and play in Pittsburgh on Thursday. But one game at a time, chance to snap a 4-game losing streak tonight in Washington. Again, puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pregame coverage starts at 6:30. Thank you for your questions today. Remember, you can send them to me anytime on Twitter at BobbyMaxSports. That's going to do it for today's edition of CBJ in 30, presented by Tel Hayo Credit Union. Until tonight, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.